I saw a need, I guess. I've worked I'm a respiratory therapist, have been for since 1995. I've worked in home medical equipment. So I've been in a lot of houses around the state. I've seen a lot of folks. And you kind of get to the point where you can tell when someone has overstayed their welcome, I guess, at their house, or lived in that home beyond their abilities. Um, so that was one part of it. We also moved my mother-in-law, my wife's mom, in with us. She lived with us for 2.5 years, and that really makes you wonder how folks do it too.
Yeah.
I had a job at the time when I was very autonomous, and I could come and go as I pleased. And whenever she would call, if she had an emergency, whether it was she needed lunch or she needed a remote control fixed, that was all just something I could go and take care of. But what about the people who can't do that? And
Hmm.
what do we do? What do they do? What options do they have? So I think those were the precursors to why this business.
Scared.
And it's very difficult when it's your family member, your mom or your dad or your grandma. I think having someone from outside come in and give you concrete options and just be a sounding board, I think helps. Sometimes I have had a call from a man that said, "Hey, I need assisted living,"
Yeah.
and I thought, "Wow, well, this is exactly what I do." Let's talk about that, and I mean, we worked, and it turned out he wasn't really as willing as he
Yeah.
let on,
Yeah.
and it went on for a long time, and we finally worked it out and found a solution. But yeah, there are other instances. It may be a wife who's at the end of her rope, or a husband, um, uh, kids who are out of state and have parents in state that they just can't come to town every weekend, or they come to town for Thanksgiving and they realize, oh wow, mom's a little different than she was last year. A large percentage of my clients have some degree of dementia, and that's why I pursued that certified dementia practitioner uh, designation. I mean, I felt like that was important to be able to work with that population. Um, but yeah, but mobility is equally difficult, because when you're at home and you can't manage that home, that becomes a problem, and it'll sneak up on you and bite you if you're not careful. I think to be able to just keep it, like the kids say, keep it real for people, and just kind of come up with options and talk through it. Sometimes I feel like a lot of times, if I can just lay down a plan for someone and a sequential way that we're gonna take on this problem, that relieves a lot of stress, and they can at least see it happening at that point. I've heard them say 100 times, I promised mom that I would never do whatever, and I try to tell them that, things, circumstances change, and it's okay to seek out what's best for someone. But yeah, I mean, typically, folks, I think the statistics, some 80 something percent, people want to stay at home. They want to be in their own home, and I get that. But home could be the least expensive place to receive care and the most expensive place, depending on the amount that you need. Well,
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of where we start, and maybe that's where we develop that plan and draw the line in the sand and say, I mean, if right now we need 4 hours of home care, I could get away with 4 hours a day. Yeah,
Wow.
at $25 an hour, 4 hours a day is $100. So
Yeah.
you're talking $100 a day whenever somebody comes out to help. Um, $300 a week is going to end up being right at $1,000 a month, and can you absorb that? Do you have the assets to absorb that? And my answer to where do I start is, and I'll tell you where not to start.
Okay.
And that is, I try to tell everyone, do not put your personal information on the internet. There's so many third party sites out there that are are waiting for that information, and when you enter your name and your phone number, they own it. They own your information, and they will shoot it out to everybody in their network, and your phone starts ringing off the wall, and it just adds stress to an already stressful situation. If we need to find those websites, well, I can get you the websites that are the real websites that go directly to that community, that we're not having to go through a third party, and we can get the information. So what I would do, I would come out, I would interview, assess, try to figure out what level of care mom needs and who out there provides that level of care for the best price. I mean, I'm trying to be a good steward of her assets, and I'm trying to hopefully stay off of Medicaid for as long as we can. I mean, I think that's important. Medicaid's a great tool, and thank God that the state provides for folks, but it's still the state calling the shots. Yeah, so I typically try to involve the entire family. Whoever, I want everybody to be involved. I want to get as much information as I can, and I want mom to be involved as well. This is affecting her, so directly more than anyone. So if we can get her input and the family's input, and we turn it into a conversation, then we can make progress. But I'll tell you a story of a time that I was in a family's home. We had a big family meeting, big living room. Everybody, all the brothers and sisters are sitting around, and Dad's sitting in the chair, and you can tell he's just not happy about it. And we start that conversation, and we start talking about options, and he said, "Look, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here until they take me out feet first." And I said, "Okay, I get that, but let's at least explore options. My service is free. It doesn't cost a dime to explore options. We can go and we can create a half a day of touring at facilities, communities, and see what they have to offer. That's all free. It doesn't cost us a dime. Let's get out of the house." We all went, we toured, and I tell you what, by the end of the tour, he looked at me and he said, "I could probably do this."
Process.
It's an apartment, it's not grandma's nursing home that we're talking about here. We're trying to avoid that at all costs. Like I said at the panel, there's a time and a place for a nursing home. I'm not discounting that. But that's not the only option. Living. I've got several independent living communities that are, it's apartment style living. They've got housekeeping. They've got transportation. They've got a dining plan, utilities paid, cables paid. You can put everything on autopilot. And then if you need a little bit of care on the side, well, we have agencies that we could do that too. So we could put together an assisted type scenario for a lot of times cheaper than what we could do in a full-on assisted living, if that fits the bill, if that's warranted for their level of care requirement. But then, then you move. If not, we look at the assisted level. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a little more expensive, but if you've got 24-hour care availability and that's what you need, well, it's still cheaper than a lot of other options. There are even residential care. Residential care is a level that's kind of in between the independent and the assisted, and maybe they have a few more amenities that they're going to offer that would help, and it just all depends on what's needed. That the first 6 months, 8 months of this business, me starting this business, that's what I did. I just went out and toured places and tried to get as much information as I could, just like I was touring for my mom or my dad. I want to find out what kind of information, what kind of amenities they have and what they have to offer, and just what makes them different than brand X down the street. And if it's a nursing home, it's a nursing home. Sometimes that's needed. I've also got little care homes around that are just the neatest thing ever. Residential care home in a residential neighborhood. If you drove by it, you wouldn't even know it was a care facility. But in Arkansas, you can have 3 or fewer people under one roof and not have to be a licensed community. Now,
Caregiver.
we're 24-hour caregiver, and you can have 3 people under one roof. Well, you're just basically splitting the cost of 24-hour care.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a home situation, but not nearly what it would cost to bring someone into your home to provide that type of care. But it's so resident centered. It's such resident centered care. If I sleep till 10 o'clock and I want to wake up and I get my typical, my bowl of oatmeal or whatever, then the person's going to make it. They're going to make it for me. I didn't sleep through breakfast hours. Or I have a very select few that I'll work with, that I've visited, that I've vetted, that I know what they have to offer and how they're run, and those are really the ones that I've invited into my network and the ones that I will use on a regular basis. It's going to be a nursing home or a skilled nursing facility or a nursing and rehab. Those are all kind of used to describe the same building, and I think they're called different things, but depending on how Medicare or Medicaid pays for it. But Medicaid covers care in a nursing home.
Okay.
You've got 24-hour nursing availability. If you've got the need for injections, or you have a colostomy or a urostomy, a tracheostomy, some sort of ostomy that might exclude you from an assisted living environment, then a nursing home is where we have to go. Okay, in order to qualify for an assisted living, you have to be a one-person assist. Okay, which means I have to be able to stand and pivot from my bed. Have to be able to help a little bit, help the person that's getting me up, and I pivot into a wheelchair, and then they can wheel me down to the dining room, and I can feed myself
See, I didn't even
my
know
breakfast. Yeah.
that. Okay.
Now, if I can't stand up and it takes 2 people to get me out of bed, or I can't feed myself my breakfast, at that point, then I'm not a candidate for assisted living. Everybody handles stress in different ways, and as you're describing this, as I'm kind of thinking about the different families in the process and the people that I've dealt with, some people they're presented with this stress and they just give up. They're just like, I don't know what to do. I don't even know what next move to make. And then there are other folks who use that, and that empowers them, and they start put it into high gear, and they respond, and they start gathering information. And so I think I have to kind of figure out who I'm dealing with first. And then we're able to put our heads together and figure and bring someone who's down here up to this level, and bring someone who's about to blow a gasket down to this level,
Right.
and then we
Wow.
approach it from the same direction. I have a good handful of home care agencies that I work with, that I know, and I know what they provide, and I know how they operate. I know their philosophy, and then I feel like I'm able to get feedback from the families who I've used them for, and those are the ones those are my go-tos.